an awful lot of the EV content available online, both on YouTube and in blogs and news articles and stuff like that, focuses on brand new cars or nearly new cars for people that have 20, 30, 40,000 pounds to spend. And I appreciate that that doesn't represent all car buyers. There's plenty of people out there that are willing to go and buy a new car, or they can get it on a cheap lease deal or salary sacrifice through work or whatever. But there's still a huge amount of the market that relies on buying a reasonably cheap second-hand car to get them around, and that's always going to be the case, and that's fine. But nobody really talks much about cheap second-hand EVs. So I thought it was worth having a look at the bottom end of the market. So what can you get if you've just got a fairly modest budget? Now, we know that cheap stuff does come up now and again. If you watch my previous video about the UK's cheapest Nissan Leaf, you'll see I managed to pick one up with a fairly tired battery for less than £3,000. That was in fairly good nick, but it wouldn't go very far on a charge. And that particular car was a bit of an anomaly. They don't tend to come up for that kind of money that often. A battery, even in that condition, is probably still worth a couple of grand for parts, for people that want to build the battery into a project of some description. To convert like an older car that maybe uses like lead acid, like a G-Wiz, or like the Axon Mega City Electric that I've got lying around still waiting on a repair, you'd maybe use a Leaf battery to sort that out, because actually it doesn't need that much in the way of battery capacity to be just as effective as it is with 12 lead acid batteries. So a tired Leaf battery is quite good use for that. Or you can use them for home energy storage, sort of DIY Powerwall type stuff. And therefore the residual values are reasonably high, and they don't come up with that kind of money very often. But I thought, let's have a look on Auto Trader. Let's search fuel type electric, search price low to high, and let's see what we've got. And it turns out, to buy something running and driving and not crashed and worthwhile, you're going to need £5,000 is probably the kind of budget you're going to need, unless you're lucky or you're buying from auction or you've got contacts in the trade. It looks like about £5,000 is what you need at the moment to buy an EV of any description. A little bit more than I thought. I thought there was still maybe some cheap tired Leafs around, but it looks like £5,000 is the kind of where you want to be. So I've got 3 different models for you at the moment. So as of March 2021, this is what £5,000 buys you for a second-hand EV at the bottom of the market. First up, we've got a car you might never have heard of, unless you sort of closely follow EVs and EV models. This one might have passed you by. It's a Peugeot Ion, also sold as Mitsubishi i-miev or the Citroen C0. And it's a bit of a funny looking thing, but we can forgive the looks, because it actually looks like quite an interesting car. It probably got a 70-mile range roughly. It'll rapid charge on a CHAdeMO rapid charger. It charges on a Type 1 just like the older Leafs do. So a little bit outdated in terms of its charging connectivity and stuff, but Type 2 to Type 1 cables are fairly common, and there's still plenty of CHAdeMO chargers kicking around. So found a couple of these on Auto Trader. So let's take a look. This is the first Peugeot Ion. It's the cheapest one on Auto Trader at $3,995, so actually a little bit under the arbitrary budget we've set. 2011 and 11 reg. Vast majority of them at this kind of money will be that kind of age, so the first of them. It's not too bad. Silver. See, these photos are a little bit... I find if the second picture on a dealer's advert is about how they can get you finance, I'm always a little bit wary. 61,500 on the clock. You know, a nice curbed wheel. I don't know why you'd choose to take a close-up picture of a wheel that's all curbed, but at least there'll be no surprises, I guess. It's fairly tidy, it's not too bad. And looks reasonably clean inside as well. So it says 61,576 miles. Don't know if that spanner means it's due a service. If you've got an Ion or an i-miev, let me know. Is that what that means? It usually is, right? So it'd be nice if it's overdue a service. So let's see. As usual, the description doesn't really tell me much. Budget cars, finance available. A little bit light on information. Tyre condition good though, you know, that's always a good sign. Second one is probably a better bet, apart from maybe the black wheels. Not so keen on that, but 500 quid more, but it's only done 29,500 miles, so a bit lower mileage. White rather than silver, but again, still looks pretty tidy. I'm really not keen on the black wheels though. Oh, the yellow brake drums on the back. That's quite special. But yes, it's not too bad. A bit short of interior photos on this advert, but let me know what you think. Which one would you pick? The higher mileage one at a dealer, or lower mileage private seller, but they felt the need to paint the brake drums yellow. So if the Peugeot Ion isn't quite your thing, how about a cheap Leaf? Maybe you can, you're not, like I say, you're not going to find them as cheap as the one I bought, not at least not readily. But there's a couple of sub £5 Leafs on Auto Trader. Let's take a look at those and see what they're like. Next up then is the Leaf. So we've got two Leafs. Both of them are 4990. We've got one on a 12 reg at a dealer. 86,763 miles on the clock, so a little bit high mileage in terms of Leafs. I'm not sure what the old stick-on black plastic trim's all about. I don't think Leafs came with that. It looks like someone's decided to stick that on there, which is an interesting look, but it looks a little bit out of place, doesn't it? Especially with the chrome door handles. But again, looks alright, looks fairly tidy. Got the lovely beige interior, like this will be another Japanese built Leaf, like the one that I had briefly. What's a bit concerning about this one? So we've clearly, it looks like we do have, you know, about 9 bars on this one, which is to be expected. It's almost the same as what we had on the one that I had, but only shows a 41 mile range. So I think the battery in this one's probably reasonably hammered. I'd find it pretty difficult to part with £5 for a car that's going to struggle to do 50 miles on a charge. I don't think it's worth the money. Next one up. It's got 49,920 miles on it. It's a private seller rather than a dealer, so you expect it maybe a little bit cheaper for it's done almost half the miles, but it's the same price, so I think that shows the difference between private and dealer sales. It looks nice and shiny. I'll say this one, again, we've got 9 bars, but it shows an 81 mile range on a full charge. Again, gasometer is quite difficult to go by, but it certainly seems a bit more optimistic about its battery capacity than the one that I had. So maybe the battery's actually in a little bit better health than this one. And, you know, apart from the fact the seats look a tiny bit grubby, it's hard not to when they're beige like that, it does look fairly tidy. I think of the two Leafs, this is the better one. But I just don't know if you're actually better off avoiding the Leaf altogether at this kind of money. If what you can afford is an early Japanese built car and it's £5 instead of the sort of less than 3 that is probably the right kind of place in the market for them. But it's certainly a better option than the first one. It would be my pick of those two. So yeah, those aren't so bad. Maybe taking a little bit of a gamble with a battery. Could be a little bit more tired than you'd bargain for at that kind of money. And actually, you might not end up much better off, especially with that higher mileage one, than I was at sort of half the money. So maybe they're a bit strong money-wise at the moment. I'm not sure. Last but not least, the third bottom of the market contender I've got for you is the Renault Zoe. Now these are a little bit controversial because at this kind of money you're going to have battery lease. Now that's where you'll pay Renault, I think it's about 50 quid a month, 60 quid a month to lease the battery. So the battery belongs to Renault or Renault's financial services company, and you're just renting it even though it's in the car that you've bought and paid for. It wasn't a popular thing, you know, when these cars were new, people were put off by this. The residual values suffered as a result, and even when these cars were 3-4 years old, you could pick them up probably for not much more money than what they're available for now. But the big difference now is Renault will actually let you buy out the lease. So for a couple of grand, you can actually buy out the battery lease and then fully own the battery. And it would be up to you whether you wanted to do that or just carry on paying the monthly payment. I can see good arguments for both. You know, if you own the battery, obviously there's no ongoing payment, and that's good because you reap the benefit of the sort of cheaper running costs faster. But if Renault are still on the hook for the battery, you still benefit from a battery warranty, and the chances are, you know, as they get a bit older. I mean, what I don't know is if they're under warranty for all the time you're leasing them. I assume they are. Whereas if you buy it out, it's then yours, and the age these are getting to, there might not be much time left on the battery warranty. So I think that's what you'll need to weigh up when it comes to leasing or owning. But let's take a look at the couple of bottom of the market Zoes. What does $5,000 get you if you're willing to put up with a battery lease? Now the Zoe, this 13 reg, 4990, 84,000 on the clock, so 50,717 miles above average. There must be quite a lot of low mileage Zoes around for Auto Trader to be saying that. White, like most of them are, and they could have probably valeted this one a little bit better. Certainly that front seat. I mean, I know it's quite a difficult light interior, but that could probably have a little bit more of a clean than it's had. Doesn't exactly inspire confidence. Looks like it's wearing every one of those 85,000 miles. And quite worrying that the battery is absolutely flat in this picture as well, showing no miles range. Again, maybe not the best. I think a far better option is the second one. It's a private sale on Speak EV. Again, $5,000 or near offers. A 2013 car with 25,000 on the clock, full service history. It looks a lot cleaner and tidier. I see in the metallic black rather than white. It's very much a personal preference, but we've also got a darker interior too. A bit less light in area, I suppose, but certainly will hide the dirt a bit more. I think this is probably a good buy. Again, it's battery lease, but they both will be. The dealer advert didn't say that it was, but it will be. They all are at this kind of money. I think if you could probably get that for a little bit less than $5,000. It's a pretty good buy. I think that's where my money would go on these cars. Not bad at all. So there we are. I think I would have the lower mileage one of the two. It looks like a far better car for the money. It actually looks like a little bit of a bargain, that. I think if you can live with a battery lease or at least plan to buy it out, that could actually be the winner here. It's got a slightly higher range than any of the rest of them. AC charging might be an issue. You know, now you know what to look for in terms of connector, because you'll have watched my EV for Beginners rapid charging connectors video. If you haven't seen that, there's a link in the top corner. You can have a look. But now that you know what to look for in terms of connector, maybe it'll be okay. But some of the faster AC charging is dying out a little bit. I don't know what it'll be like. I think the appeal of a Zoe might well depend on how often you'll need to drive beyond its range. So how often you'd need to charge whilst you're on the road rather than charging at home. So let me know in the comments what you think. Would you have the Leaf? Would you have the Zoe? Would you have the Ion? Would you go and spend 500 quid on an old banger with a petrol engine? I mean, I'm sure you're going to come at me in the comments and say that. Oh, I could just buy a petrol or diesel car that would probably actually work out cheaper. Because I know for 2 or 3 grand you can go and buy a half decent petrol or diesel car, but you need to bear in mind that if someone looking for a cheap EV is probably not the same person that would just go and buy a cheap petrol or diesel banger. I mean, if you live anywhere near London, for example, the ULEZ and the congestion charge zone are a very big issue, and any of the zero emissions cars shown here would be exempt. And that can make a really big difference to the appeal, right? So think about that before you go all guns blazing with the sort of anti-EV stuff in the comments. But let me know what you think. I think at the moment, some of these cheap cars maybe not quite got the right appeal. I think, especially in the case of the Leaf, I'd struggle to part with $5,000 for it myself. But let me know what you think. I'm sure if it's a second car and it's not going very far, it would be all right. But I very much think with any of these options, you're going to very much want to not be going that far in it, want to charge it at home almost every night and not have to worry about having to charge it whilst you're out and about. But that's just me, I think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.